The next game on our list, it's the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The 2-3 Bengals meet the 2-3 Saints. Joe Burrow's return back to New Orleans, back to the Superdome, the place where he won his national championship. That's the last time he played in the Superdome. Good memories for Joe Burrow. The Bengals are 1.5-point favorites in this matchup with that nice little over-under of 43 points. This team, both these teams have been, I don't want to say that I guess I will say it. They've both been, I guess, playing under what our expectations were. Both of them are 2-3. I don't think any of us predicted them to be 2-3 through 5 games of the season. It's been very disappointing on both sides of the ball. I feel like the Bengals are trending in the right direction, and I guess you can say the Saints are too. The Saints put up 35 plus points again last week, but it's just not seeming right on both sides of things here. Aaron, let's start off with the Saints and their win last week. How do they build off of that win, and what do they need to take from that win here on Sunday?
Yeah, the focus of the offense, excuse me, needs to be around Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is I don't want to say driving force. Like, there's other players that they can lean on. We talked about Michael Thomas during the injury report. If he's out there, obviously he can get some stuff. Jarvis Landry, but these guys are all banged up. So it's really Alvin Kamara and then Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway. Like, you have to look directly at Alvin Kamara and say, we need to find a way to get him the ball, whether it's through the run game, through the pass game, and then use Taysom Hill the way you used him last week, sparingly around the red zone, 3rd and short, finding ways to get first downs, keep the chains moving, and keep that defense off the field. That's what the Saints are right now. It's about having an identity, and the identity of this team is to run the football and then look for big plays out of players like a Taysom Hill, who's unique. Look, some of the things that Taysom Hill brings to their offense, nobody in the NFL has. There are very few teams in the NFL that has a Taysom Hill. So what they've done over the past couple of weeks is try to incorporate him and use that weapon. This is very similar to like the Chiefs not being able to get Travis Kelce open, but finding a way to use him when it matters, which is in the red zone, and get him open. This is easy. You can get Taysom Hill the ball because you can snap him the ball. And then you can line up in quarterback power and just say, go get me 3rd and short. And it's easy. You don't have to worry about it. You get an extra blocker. If they stick to that, it forces the defenses to actually focus on that. And then what happens? Then you can run some of those trick plays or misdirection to, okay, now Taysom Hill keeps it, but he's actually handing it off to Kamara. Or now he's going to throw the ball this time to his tight end across the middle for a touchdown. Like, those things continue to keep a defense like wondering what's going to happen next. So Alvin Kamara, use Taysom Hill sparingly and do exactly what you did against Seattle. Now, it's going to be a lot harder because the Bengals defense is a lot better than the Seattle Seahawks defense, but that's their identity right now. It's nothing else other than that, including if Jameis Winston comes back and plays.
Yeah, I feel like in this season where on this team with the Bengals, like, it's like we always talk about their offense, and like that's what they pride themselves on. That's what we've been known and accustomed to seeing, that like the Bengals defense last year was no slouch. As much as we rip on Eli Apple, the defense was not that bad last year, and it seems like that's the highlight of them this year. It's not the same offense though from last year. Things are not working out the same. AJ, what do you think the biggest difference is from this season and last season with the Cincinnati Bengals offense?
Yeah, I mean, teams paid attention last year. The biggest difference from the team itself last year, this year, is last year nobody thought they were going to be good, so they were able to slap a lot of teams in the mouth and they weren't ready for it. This year they're prepared. They understand what that offensive talent that the Bengals have, and they're coming into the games ready for it. You're talking about a team last year that had explosive play after explosive play, and that just hasn't really been the case this year because teams are taking away that. They're getting on Jamar Chase downfield. They're not leaving them with openings. You look at Joe Burrow last year, he was at 8.9 yards per pass attempt. That was one of the highest in the league. This year, he's down to 6.9. They're taking away the opportunity for the explosive plays to be there. Now, that can change as the season goes on, as T. Higgins gets back to being healthy, and you can't just give all your attention to one Jamar Chase, because once you do, T. Higgins is going to burn you. When you switch it over, Jamar Chase is going to burn you. And then if you do it too wrong, Tyler Boyd is a very capable wide receiver. And I haven't even got to mention about Joe Mixon. So it's just the difference. Teams pay attention. When you were a Super Bowl contender from last season, you were going to get teams' best shots, even if you didn't win that game. And people are ready for the Bengals when they come into town. And it's on Zach Taylor, it's on Joe Burrow, and it's on those weapons to get as most as they can out of what the defense is giving you until you can take a shot and make the best of it.
AJ firing this morning. AJ firing this morning. Like there's sometimes when like I ask a question and I hope that there's a direction that you go in. Like, and obviously, like for you and Aaron both, like there's a direction I hope you go in, and you nailed it. You absolutely crushed it with where this Bengals offense is, what the problem hasn't, what the problems have been, and the difference. It's not like there's no big plays. You got to find a way to make it happen in the short game and get those little chunk plays here and there. Aaron, your thoughts on that? You seem like you. Oh, you're on mute.
That's a minus. Hey,
my chair's been squeaking, so I'm trying not to.
That it has.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to have it squeak when I'll be moving. So to the big play point, which is right, there haven't been big plays, but this is where the adjustment comes into play because the way teams are playing the Bengals, which Joe Burrow mentioned, is the same way they started playing the Chiefs. Right? They said, you know what, we are last year, and they had to learn. The Chiefs had to learn a way to around it. Now, I don't know if the Bengals are capable of doing what the Chiefs did because Andy Reid is a special man, but that's what they have to do. They have to be okay with not having big plays. The NFL, most defenses design so you don't get big plays. You have to be able to work around that. You have to be able to throw 10-yard digs, 8-yard slants, 15-yard comebacks, and down the field, run the ball and get in the end zone. If you can't do that, if you are solely predicated on big plays being the focus of your offense, good luck trying to win championships because the NFL defenses are smart. And when you see a team that came out of nowhere last year and you say, okay, now we know we have to prepare a certain way for you. These defensive coordinators getting paid millions, just like your offensive coordinator, to stop you. And the players on defense are there to stop you. It's a lot harder. And so that's what we've seen. And the Bengals have been one of the better teams at adjusting, by the way. Last year, I thought they did an excellent job throughout the season of having bad first halves, adjusting at halftime, and coming back in games and things like that. But we do have to remember, they were only 10-7 last year. So they were up and down. They were winning games. They were losing games. After 5 games last year, they were 3-2 instead of 2-3 this year. So the one win away, that Dallas win is a Cincinnati win. We might still be talking about them this way, but they still would have the same record they had last year. So I think it's still a little too early to worry about them. But they haven't trended really in the right direction to me offensively. I need to see more from Joe Burrow. I need to see that growth from him. You can't say, oh, no, I'm stuck. So I honestly, I got the Saints in this one. I'll be honest. I have the Saints winning this game at home. I have it 24-23, and I have a question for all the Bengals fans. Can somebody update me on Eli Apple? I haven't heard much about him this year, so I know I'm serious. I need a PFF grade. Since last year, all they wanted to give me was PFF grades, I need somebody to go look up his PFF grade and tell me where he ranks amongst corners. Because last year, they told me he was number 1 in all of football. So I just need to know if he's still number 1 or not. Because if he's number 1 and they're still this bad, Jesus, good luck.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Saints win 24-23.
All right, there you go. I didn't even I had a missed opportunity in this game. This is who dat versus who day. I didn't even make up that. I didn't even pull out that line at the beginning of this, but missed opportunity. AJ, what about you?
Yeah, so I think I got the score a little high in this one, but I did take the Bengals in this one, 34-28. I think the reason I went with this score is it just seems like the Saints keep finding a way to put up points when they get down by a touchdown and they keep these games close. You look back at what they did in London, you look what they did the week before with Seattle as well. So I kind of see this offense maybe being one of those type of shootouts. So I'm going to give Joe Burrow that offense a tick that they get it right this week. The Saints defense has been underachieving, and the Bengals offense is not one you want to underachieve at, because if you give them the opportunity, they're still going to take their shots. And if they hit on a couple, we could see some quick plays like them Tyler Boyd 40, 50-yard touchdowns because of busted coverage and things of that nature. So I'll stick with my score, even though I acknowledge it may be a little high. Bengals 34-28.
Yeah, I with what happened last week with them against Seattle. I mean, Seattle is just a super high powered offense. That's who the Saints played last week. Who did the Saints? They played Seattle last week, right? That's the thing.
Yes.
trying to remember things correctly.
I feel you. London messes you up, man.
There's just a lot of football, a lot of coverage here going on to try and remember what's happening in week 5, but talking about week 6. But last week they allowed a lot of points to the most efficient offense in the NFL and the Seattle Seahawks. There's a little bit more weapons and a better quarterback. And I don't want to take a shot at Geno, but this game, though, Saints defense last week allowed that many points to Seattle. I don't think they allow that many points this game, but I do have the Bengals as well winning this in 28-23. And my little nug for this to defend my point is I am worried about the Saints offense. Last week, we did see an improvement from the Saints offense. They scored a lot of points. We saw Taysom Hill get involved. We saw Alvin Kamara get really involved. But that was the Andy Dalton at quarterback. And I worry that we talked about this, I believe, on Wednesday's show, or maybe it was Monday's show, that game plans sometimes will change depending on the quarterback. And sometimes you don't have the same simple system with Jameis as you have with Andy Dalton. And you don't have the weapons there. There's no Jarvis. There might not be Chris Olave, no Michael Thomas. There's not a lot of weapons there. So I worry that they're not going to be able to get the job done on offense. So 28-23 Bengals in this one for me.